brewing Girl Scout cookie mystery.
I mean, the Girl Scout cookies arrived yesterday. We all were enjoying them. I said that Thin Mints were my favorite. I was ridiculed for that. I had one Thin Mint, put them back in the box because they're supposed to be shared for the community. Box still here. Thin Mint box gone.
Okay, was there a limited amount? Was people only supposed to have one, or was there any kind
The
of
whole box is gone.
There's a lot of people who work.
They
That
eat
is
them things up quick.
Rude.
So classic radio station rude.
It
It's
is?
like there's free food that people bring in and it's out there for everyone.
Yeah.
And somebody just squirrels a bunch and takes it home for themselves. You don't take it home. You don't take it home. You eat it in the
You eat it
studio
here,
because it's
and
clearly snacks. It's not like it's something that's
They
gonna
took
go
home your
bad.
favorite too, the caramel delights. Nowhere to be found.
No, because those were gone.
Caramel
Greg and I almost ate the whole pack.
All-time greatest Girl Scout cookie is the Caramel Delight. Used to be called the Samoa, I believe.
Yeah, number one on the list, hands down.
What's your number one go-to?
Tagalongs.
What's
I
those?
don't the ones that you have right there, the peanut butter patties that I
Oh.
checked, but they're all gone. Which shows you how good they are.
Oh, they're right here.
Yeah, those. Are,
No. Those are like a new. Here's the other thing. There's like these Gen Z Girl
These
Scout
ones?
cookies.
Those are Adventurefuls.
We didn't grow up with those. Those are different ones.
These ones?
Yeah, these ones, the red bag ones.
Yeah, Thin
those are
Mints
the
have
best
always been my favorite. Actually,
But-
these right here though, the shortbread ones are pretty good. The
Okay.
trefoils.
Oh, I mean,
trefoils.
those are good, but
Those are like you can.
Yeah.
Those are just like generic.
Mego's right. Tagalong's the best.
Those are like the ones that your grandfather gets and he dips them in the coffee.
Yes.
Were either of you Girl Scouts?
Yes. Well, I was a brownie and I bridged over to Girl Scouts and then I quit.
So I was a brownie, and I don't even know what Courtney's talking about. with
The bridging
ceremony.
bridging
Did you
ceremony.
learn anything special, like how to start a fire with two sticks or anything like that?
No.
no.
Girl Scouts
No,
is
it's
not about that.
No, you
It's
didn't.
about like making things with puffy paint on t-shirts.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, is that what it is?
No,
You got your
that's the Girl
patches.
Scouts. Yeah, the whole thing was selling cookies.
Yeah.
It was actually our first pyramid scheme.
Oh,
our
yes.
first MLM
It really
scheme that we got
was.
pulled into by our mothers.
I mean, that's where it all started.
All right. Well, I mean, it's tough to find anything to say about this Celtics team that is negative. The only thing I find myself bored by some of these games. I don't know if you do or not.
Well, so do you care at all that they were eliminated by the NBA Cup, that it wasn't in their control in the end?
I don't. We've had an ongoing discussion about the cup.
It's stupid it should just be record and that's it. Like the best team with the best record out of the group goes. Like this whole got to win by third. Greg, I was texting the group chat. Like I'm watching the Knicks game, and then I'm like, what's gonna happen? They got to win. The Knicks got to win by 38. Milwaukee has to beat the team that they're playing. It's just so stupid.
So did you watch the New York game though?
I did. I was like, I was
working.
So that's the point. The
Yeah.
point is they want you to watch the games, even though it's a meaningless game. You're going to see if New York can actually pull off this 38-point lead, and of course they didn't, but it made me stay up and watch a stupid New York game last night, and I was
We
all
were being
mad.
critical of the point differential. This is part of it where Wiggy and I were both saying, if you win the game, you win the game. If you don't, you don't. That is true, because after halftime where it was like, all right, you got a 20-point lead, are you going to either blow the lead or are you going to win by 38? That gets people more involved.
It starts to be like a morbid curiosity.
Yes.
Of like, are they
Yes.
going to go for it? Can
Right.
they do this? And I will say, I agree with you largely. I don't think it really matters at all for the Celtics. Definitely doesn't matter at all when you're a team who's got championship implications at the end of the season. But I do look at what they got in return, which is they basically get 4 days off starting Saturday. And then they're seeing Washington and they're seeing Detroit instead. So the league plugs in, backfills these 2 games because they still need to play games for the 82-game season. And the games that you get just aren't going to be as fun as a viewer as the games you would have gotten if they were in the NBA Cup because the better teams in the East are in the NBA
So is it
Cup.
like a built-in buy?
No, it's not like a bye. It's just the way that the scheduling works, they just have a couple days off that they wouldn't have had otherwise if they were moving forward, but they still have to play those 2 games.
Okay.
It's just you're stuck with the
Because
other
I was
teams that
thinking when
didn't
you
make
said
it.
that if there's a little bit extra rest for not making the tournament, is it better to be like, you know what? Let's not make the tournament so we can rest our guys You know, because you see it in the NBA, like, you know, guys are not playing back-to-back and a lot of different things like that. So maybe it's a way.
It's a good thing for Dallas because they might actually win something.
Yeah.
Did
Did you guys see the Kyrie story that TMZ had the other day?
The Kai Cenat?
No, Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, are you talking about when he was on Kai Cenat's stream?
No, I'm talking about that he's getting sued for allegedly not paying
The
hundreds of thousands of
wellness.
dollars to some wellness provider for a retreat that he
No,
had.
I did not see that.
Yeah.
Oh, don't tell Wiggy anything bad.
A retreat was hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So he was putting on a retreat that first he said, according to TMZ, there were going to be 50 to 60 people there, and they had this person who
Fyre
came in
Fest.
who was like a wellness guru, and that's what it was all going to be about. And then I guess it ballooned up to allegedly over 150 people, and then he just... the wellness guru person is saying he never paid them and he owes them like $350,000. To which I say, this guy doesn't change.
No.
Yeah, no, he does not. He does not change.
All right, I got listen.
He does not change.
I need the receipts before I go. What's it called? Convicting people.
Okay.
Haven't we talked about this all
You have
morning
a
long?
feed today.
Haven't we talked this all morning long with
Wiggy
John
raises
Benet
a good
rant?
point. Anybody can sue anybody.
Right.
Anybody can bring a
that's
suit
true.
against
I mean,
you.
right.
Kyrie is always the villain.
I mean, haven't
They
we
try.
talked about it all morning long with John Benet Ramsey's
Right.
dad?
Yes.
Poor
Yeah,
guy.
That is true.
And Greg
Poor guy.
loves indicting ham sandwiches, so
Yes,
it's
yes.
always what we do around here.
Wiggy is on an odd theme, which is defending Rollis Chapman for shooting windows out. Is one of his big things that he's talking about.
And groping
today,
his
so-
mom.
No,
so
I said he did it
it's-
10 years ago, and that's the first thing we bring up. This guy's a bad guy.
Yeah.
This guy's a
Served
bad
30
guy.
games, which is a lot.
I mean, but we got to wait until he was never convicted of nothing.
Yeah.
Listen, the same way we're waiting on what happens with Karen Reed. Look at how many people want to convict her already.
Jason Tatum, Player of the Month.
Hard pivot.
And I've heard enough. I know where Wiggy
Good
stands
call,
on this.
Mego.
Generally, we know where Wiggy stands on things.
I love it.
Can we just do a very quick thing on that topic? Milan Lucic, I found out, and I was here. I must have been bombed. I don't know. But there was another instance of Milan Lucic abusing or punching his wife
Yes.
in the North End.
Yes.
And so when it happened, I was enraged that we didn't react in that first moment to that behavior. So, I mean, if this is the one thing that we've read about in the news, odds are, from my perspective, it's not the only time the guy did it, just like it wasn't the only time Ray Rice did that.
Hey, see, I don't.
The guy gets pulled over for
I don't
DUI. It's not his
subscribe
first
to
time
that one,
driving
Curtis.
drunk.
No, I don't subscribe
Well,
to that.
because he
one.
says he never did it.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to, even if a person who does something doesn't mean because they've done it one time they're going to consistently do it again and
That's
again.
true.
So I don't subscribe to
It
that.
doesn't mean every case, but how many people you get caught plagiarizing that you go back and you read through and there's like 16 other examples. It's rarely just one time.
Yeah, but when we're talking about like things that I feel like when you're talking about Milan Lucic or you're talking about Chapman of hitting a woman, I don't subscribe to. If he's done it once, he's probably going to do it over and over and over again.
I'd also say, Curtis, like you had raised a good point about that idea about the plagiarizing, but I do think that when it's an offense where it's like you're trying to find a shortcut like that, that's something that becomes more habitual. A violent alleged act is a little bit of a different nature.
But I do think you cross a threshold when you're able to do that to a woman, that once you're there, it seems more likely that it would reoccur as opposed to never doing it.
Yeah, like we talk about it with Diddy, with the Cassie video. We say if he's doing that out in the hallway, imagine what he's doing behind closed doors. So,
I'd rather not.
right, no, I wouldn't either.
So back to Tatum.
Wiggy thinks that video was AI.
No,
was-
I said
it was
no,
a
no. I said
deep
I said I saw what he did in that video and it was wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, Jason Tatum, what does he need to do when it comes to finally being the MVP?
Well, finally, I mean, we just entered December, so he's got a long way to go. But I think right now it's really going to come down to whether guys like SGA or Anthony Edwards make any kind of surge in the second half of the season, and if he can knock down Jokic, because we've talked a lot on this show before about how will there be voter fatigue around Jokic, but the guy's numbers are still just more outstanding than
They're
Jason
ridiculous.
Tatum's. Like, he just continues these triple doubles that are the likes that you haven't really seen since Russell Westbrook, and that got Westbrook the MVP several years ago. So I look at it and I say, I think it might be, if Jokic continues this way, it's just going to be hard, even with voter fatigue, for anyone to topple him. And again, I do think that it's still very early for Jason Tatum in his career. He's gonna get the MVP. It's gonna happen for him at some point. The primary focus this year still has to be repeating, especially when you've got this ownership change on the horizon, and there is now this time crunch with everything, possibly because you don't know who's going to be coming in.
We were talking a lot about you and Greg's guy, Pete Pritch.
Yes.
And in the Heat game, I was watching it, and it was bringing back memories of Isaiah Thomas. I was saying it on the show. Actually, the first season that you and I met was that Isaiah Thomas season. And then after the game, Eddie House was talking about it, saying similar numbers there. How important do you think Peyton Pritchard will be for the Celtics to be able to repeat something?
I think right now Peyton Pritchard is kind of the headline for the depth that this team has. And we've talked so much about how last year they had the best starting 5/6 in the entire league. Now they've grown into something else, which is even more impressive. And credit to the Celtics player development behind the scenes, because you think you have such a stacked high portion of the roster. What do you do with these guys on the other end? Peyton Pritchard was somebody who was disgruntled just 2 years ago with his contract. He wanted to go somewhere else where he'd get more playing time, but he continued to develop behind the scenes. You see it with guys like Luke Cornett, who also had a big night against Miami. So when you're in these stretches in the first half of the season, when you're sitting Jaylen Brown and Derek White in the same game, or you're sitting Drew Holiday and both your starting bigs, these guys backfill and they just look extremely ready to go. So I know we've been talking about Peyton so much. And yeah, he had 4 games off the bench straight with 20 plus points. That's the first time that anyone's done that since Isaiah Thomas back in 2015. So he's certainly the headline there, but I think it's almost like it's the opposite of a symptom of a bigger problem. He's the headline of something that's really impressive that the bottom half of the Celtics roster is doing.
He's like 4th in the league when it comes to threes with 500 minutes
He's
played,
a little freak show.
You know, everybody else has 600-700. But bench wise, they're by far the best in the league. Who's in your mind? Who's behind them?
I don't even know, because what I'd say in terms of their depth, I mean, their depth really starts if you have everybody healthy and ready to go on a given night for a playoff series. Their depth starts with Al Horford.
Right.
And that's a starter on most other teams unless it's the Sixers.
Right.
And then you have
Pete Pritch.
And then you have Pete Pritch, and then you do have guys like Luke Cornett and
Sam Hauser.
Nemias Queta and Sam Hauser when he's healthy. Like, you just have all these different options where I'm not saying these guys on the bench are necessarily all starters on another team. I think that's still a bit of a stretch, but they're much stronger than you usually see when you go past the 6th or 7th guy in rotation.
Yeah, and especially with Pete Pritch, I think, because that was some of the conversation that they were having when I was watching them play. Who the hell they just play here recently?
Heat?
Yeah, when they were playing the Heat, and they were talking about on the broadcast, like, what would Pete Pritch be like if he was somewhere else a starter? You know what I mean?
It's kind of like the Terry Rozier conversation that we had a few years ago.
And that's exactly why they were talking about, because Rozier obviously, went to Charlotte, became a starter, and we see him as a good player, and Pete Pritch having that opportunity, and his role is perfect. But sooner or later, he's gonna want to be one of the guys. You know what I mean?
And that might happen here in a couple seasons, because you're going to have the crunch of, I don't want to get into all the boring stuff about the second apron, and all you have to know is they're going to be spending an incredible amount of money to hold this team together. And you've got somebody like Drew Holiday who's in his 30s, and he's probably going to be moving on in one way or another. I'm not saying Peyton Pritchard is going to take over Drew Holiday's role, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility if you're trying to keep the roster together.
Speaking of being able to afford everybody, and what you brought up the sale, are you hearing anything about that?
Just that it's still very early days. So it's been very quiet on that front from everything that I've heard, but I think it's, first of all, you know how it is once you hit Thanksgiving, or for some people the week before Thanksgiving, like all the rich people shut down, except for you, Greg. All the rich people take like a 6-week break. So I wouldn't expect to hear anything.
Didn't they want to have it done by the end of the year? Wasn't that what they had said?
I honestly think that the preference of the Grosbecks has been to keep it in-house to the best of their ability, whether that's
Steve
Pags or Hale
Steve
or
Pagliuca or Rob Hale. Or
because
somebody.
they've done a great job with the organization, but they will also be judged by the stewardship of the people they sell it to, rightly or wrongly.
They did confirm that they had met with a foreign sovereign wealth fund, but that type of investor can only take a certain percentage of a team. So even that would be somebody who would be a backer with another buyer. Right. It wouldn't be somebody coming in and being like, was it
the artist formerly known as Prince Harry?
Oh my God. Can you imagine the Harry Markle, Meghan Markle Celtics? They would fall apart in 3 weeks.
How great would be the Meghan Linda drama in Boston?
I feel like my boy Bezos has turned his attention to the Jets.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Bezos was he in it for a while? I don't know.
I think he was in. I heard he was in top 3.
Yeah, they were talking about Larry Ellison, but Larry Ellison is buying quarterbacks at Michigan, so I don't know.
Could you imagine the local reaction if Elon bought the Celtics?
Oh my God! Oh, Elon's busy, Curtis. He's got to fix government. All right. Well, it's great to see you, and we will rely on you when it comes to all things Celtics.
Great, so. I'll be there tonight. Huge game against the Pistons.
That's it. Twice in a week.
That's it.
All right.
So exciting.
That is Mego, our Celtics insider here at WE.